folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. As the dog howls again. Anyway, welcome to the show with my co-host, David Hawkeye Two Feathers. Welcome.
Oh, and as always, we welcome you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And we continue to pray that each and every day that each and every one of you will continue how to learn, how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And we got a good story for you tonight. It's called The Plume. And I've read through half of it, and it's very interesting. So hang out with us, and back to you, Robert.
Oh, well, tonight we're going to be talking about some guy you might have heard of, but never heard of, all at the same time. And the only reason is because, well, he was the grandson of Daniel Boone. He made a name for himself, but all in all, people didn't really, get to him and say, because they were all interested in, hey, what'd your grandfather do? Living in the hero shadow.
Daniel Boone was a man. Yes, a big man. So he had a song written, and his grandson didn't.
That's right. Okay, everybody, if you're watching, I'm doing something new with StreamYard here, and there's the vertical screen and there's the horizontal screen. Please let me know which one you prefer or like. The horizontal, or the vertical screen is for the people who are watching on the phone, and the horizontal is the one you're watching on your computer or whatever. Tell me which one you like. I did both of them. I seen Rex Bear do it on Leak Project. I don't know which one you're watching on, but they're both streaming. If you don't like one, go to the other, please. It's all good. I see Nina already said, she says, I don't like it. I will go check out the other stream. There you go. So I don't know. I'm seeing both screens here. I think they're both streaming at the same time. It is not okay on PC. Yeah. Elderberry says vertical is not okay on PC. Said yes. So take it and go over to the horizontal on your PC. There is another stream just like this one, and I'll still see in chat and everything. It's just it's a little switched up, and I wanted to get you guys' opinion on that right off the bat. So I think I'm getting that. There's Chris Smith. Hello. She prefers this one. Okay.
And the horizontal is this way. It goes with the horizon.
Yeah.
And vertical is up and down like this, like a rocket going off. So
we're not the outer limits. We are the outer limits now. We control the vertical and the horizontal and everything in between. And let us take you to the far out way. Oh, there's Scotty boy. Aloha, he says. Aloha. And Lucky's here. He says, I've been here for a while, but I'm at work. So, okay, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Well, are you streaming on vertical or horizontal? That's a good question. Which ones do you like? Apparently, if you're on the PC, you're going to like the horizontal. If you're on your phone, how many of you are watching on your phone? Vertical works for me. There you go. Scotty boy is must be watching from his phone then. Okay. Like I said, I am trying this out. Wanted to get you guys' opinion. It's something new. They also have that they started a bunch of new stuff. They gave us sounds now. So now I can do applause. I can do, you're out. Or I can do funny things like this. Are you ready to start?
There you go.
I could have the drums beating for the Indians. Wah. There's my failed attempt. That's right. So anyway, I like the idea. That's pretty cool. Some new stuff that we're trying out. Either or, but I still have all the good stuff. Computers are devil's work. Yes, I have no computer. Okay. No, even on the phone it's too small. Okay. Thanks, Nina. So horizontal is probably the better. Okay. Looked at both. Vertical is weird, but everything new takes time to get used to. Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing it in the vertical and the horizontal on my screen, but hey, it does look a little weird on the vertical, but if you're watching, you're watching. So there you go. That's all that matters. But tonight where's my notes? Okay, and I even got a thing for notes, so that's even great. So now I can post my notes up. But tonight we're going to be talking about Daniel Boone's grandson, Albert Boone. Albert Gallatin Boone. Gallatin. Galahad. Woohoo, Paladin. Maybe that's where they got the show Paladin from. Remember that show?
Oh yeah,
Richard Boone played in it. Go figure.
that's right.
Anyway, he helped shape what came after the Wilderness Open. And he was born around 1806, which kind of was right in there where Daniel Boone died, right at the early stages of the 1800s there too. So you probably actually got to meet him. He was raised under his grandfather, Daniel Boone, which, he held a lot of responsibility and a lot of fame and fortune. And, well, anyway, in his shadow of his grandfather, he stepped forward into wild places that still needed men with courage. So if he's born in 1806, by the time he was 20, 1826 or so, he was right in the thick of the change, as I would say. He met people of all sorts, from Jim Bridger to Kit Carson. And Kit Carson called him a man who isn't afraid of anything. And that wasn't flattery. It was just fact, he said. Albert Boone traded with the Osage, negotiated treaties with the Cheyenne and Arapaho. He became an agent to the Kiowa, the Comanche, and the Plains Apache, and even worked under President Grant to solidify peace on the frontier. And he carried the Boone legacy, not on paper, but in the nerve and grit and the frontier honesty. And tonight we're going to walk his trail and tell his story. So, when we talk about all this, it's amazing how I've never really found anything about him except for when I got this book here. And if you haven't seen this is a Time Life book. It's the Trailblazers of the Old West Time Life book. And really love that book. And I seen it in there and I said, Albert Boone? Wow. And then it said grandson of Daniel Boone. And how come we don't have history books with him in it? It's just Daniel Boone all the time. So,
and Daniel Boone, he did his stint in the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing was, he lived to a ripe old age, but eventually, I think we did a few shows on him, kind of, and he ended up in Missouri. But he did a little bit of everything. He carving. I mean, you can watch TV shows and stuff like that. I mean, he was really famous.
And so, which brings up that, as he got older, and as his expeditions and as the Americas started to move west, he made it to Missouri, so yeah. Which is that's a long way back in the day, especially when most of that land was still, there'd been a few men to go through it, and they'd had a, talk with a few Indians, but it was still mostly unexplored.
Yeah, mostly unexplored is right. And Daniel Boone carved it out, but he did make some poor decisions here and there, and he didn't end up with a whole lot in the end. Um, and that seems to be the thing of these guys. Um, let's see if I got this. Trying to look up, see if I got Daniel Boone in here. I know
And
I somewhere.
you can't take it with you anyway.
Yeah,
So
but he started out carving these trails so that the settlers could come to the new countries, the new areas, I should say, west of the Appalachian Mountains, basically, wasn't it?
yeah.
So anyhow, let's see if I can get this thing.
Because if you didn't know any better, even to this day, it's tough to get through the Appalachians.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few roads and a few passes cut through the mountains, but by and large, they're still pretty much impassable. I've been all along the Appalachians, and my nephew and niece live there around Newport, Tennessee, and right behind their house is a road that literally goes right up the mountain, but it gets more narrow and narrow as it goes, and it ends up on the top of this ridge, and on the other side of the ridge is North Carolina.
Yeah.
So but I mean, if you don't have a four-wheeler, it's difficult to get up those gravel roads. Some of them are just very steep, and some of them are just hard to pass through. But anyway, but the Appalachians are still unforgiving in a lot of places. So
Yeah. So this is Daniel Boone. And this is in 1820. Chester Harding painted the only known portrait of Daniel Boone while the frontiersman still lived at the time, and Boone was so weak that he had to be propped up while Harding worked. Soon thereafter, James Otto Lewis engraved the painting, Harding's portrait, so realistic that it reportedly startled Boone's family. Anyway, so there you go. That's what he looked like in the end of his life. But he was, this was 1820, so he lived a long time so his grandson Albert would have surely have met him. Again, we know him from crossing the Appalachians. This would have been his house, in Missouri. Let's see, a lot of things were named after him. Daniel Boone National Forest. Let's see here. I'm pointing away back in the day, one of the first frontiersmen, you could say. Sure has a stern look on his face. Those early settlers, they all kind of had that look. You know what I mean?
well, wasn't he a statesman as well, Daniel?
Yes. Yeah, he was a Quaker, and came from present-day Berks County, Pennsylvania. Was born in 1734. Again, like you said, North Carolina. In 1750, he traveled by wagon to Colony of North Carolina, where in 1753 he purchased 2 tracts of land near present-day Mocksville. So there you go. Let's see if we can fast forward. We traveled the Wilderness Road to Kentucky. I'm just trying to hurry through this. Well, America's president was born. He was still alive, and he lived a long time. So I'm trying to get to where he died. So his first biographical memoir of Daniel Boone, the first settler of Kentucky, released in 1833. Boone's death in 1820. There you go. So Boone died in 1820. So his grandson that we're going to be talking about tonight, he was born in 1806. So Daniel Boone would have been there. He would have got to meet up with him. Ain't that cool? So I gotta find a picture of the other guy. So this, there wasn't really many pictures of Albert Boone to choose from, which is kind of weird because you'd think that Albert Boone would have had more pictures because, he lived during the days of the camera. So this is kind of what he looked like. I mean, this is a picture of him. So here you go. I don't know if he has that statesman looking quality of his grandfather, but there he was, change of the times, a few generations later. Yeah.
He looks like a merchant.
He does.
That he would own some kind of, dry goods store,
Yep. So anyway, okay, I gotta stop sharing that, and then we're gonna get back to.
What do you want? Do you need to go outside? Huh?
Okay. So, let's see here. Okay, so let's see where I gotta get to my other notes.
I gotta let the dog out.
Oh, you gotta let the dog out. Okay. Here we go. I just gotta get to some of my notes here. Wherever I put them. My goodness. Seems like I hide them on myself. Okay, we did that. Okay, his early life. Albert Gallatin Boone was born April 27th, 1806. Hey, I'm a 29 baby, so he was right around my time. Sometimes I feel like I'm from 1806. Likely he was born in Kentucky. His parents were Jesse Boone and Chloe Vandenbibler. Hey, Chloe, wherever she is. Haven't seen Chloe in a while. Hope she's doing all right. Well, anyway, he was tied directly to the Boone bloodline, Daniel Boone's grandson. His early frontier years, in his youth, he became a trader and frontier interpreter, and he learned tribal languages early. And in the 1820s, he was trading with Osage in Missouri. Remember, Daniel Boone moved to Missouri, as we just talked about, and he was learning the languages. Of course, there was the Shoshone, and there was all the other tribes that were probably the Delaware and tribes that were in Kentucky. Oh, the Cheyenne. Trying to think of all these really fast. Well, anyway, he joined traders on the Missouri River. Why not, right? And he worked in western Missouri and early in Colorado territory, and he became well known as a skilled negotiator between the tribes and settlers. And I suppose he could pick up those languages pretty fast. I suppose when you know one language, you probably know or can kind of, segue, I should put it, between more. Okay, eventually, Albert Boone was, he became, while he was being a trader, like you were saying before, that he looked like a merchant, right? So, trader. Okay, he became a major political tribal liaison. Ooh, big words tonight. Because he could speak those languages. He got in the political realm. He was appointed by President Buchanan in 1860. Well, I suppose that would put him, what would that put him at? Wow, he was like in his 50s by that time. Anyway, he negotiated treaties with the Cheyenne and the Arapaho. He achieved the secession of Colorado land to the United States. So there you go. He was helping, settle the West, but he was removed from his position by Abraham Lincoln because of his political opposition. But then again, he was reappointed by President Grant for an agent for the Kiowa, the Comanche, and the Cheyenne during the turbulent Indian War years, which were between 1860 and 1875 or 80,
80.
somewhere in
Yeah.
there. Yeah. After the massacre at Little Bighorn, I think the Indian War stuff kind of really fell apart because in 1876, Little Bighorn happened, and then right after that was the Nez Perce got conquered in 1876, and then 1877 the Nez Perce surrendered, and then it was just the Apache that were pretty much left. So there you go. He worked alongside Kit Carson on crucial negotiations. Of course, Kit Carson was also an Indian agent for the Navajo, remember? And later, he was appointed by Secretary of War and again, we have the Secretary of War again, because there is no Department of Defense. It's war now. To settle the Sioux relocation issues near the Arkansas and the Salt Fork of the Red River. And again, relocation is good and bad. I mean, it's good that they're out of the way of the white people and not being able to cause trouble, but then it's bad because a lot of these agents or the government really didn't care who you were. If you were an Indian, you were an Indian, and they just thought they could mix these tribes together and throw them on some land, and it really caused a lot of
hatred.
Yeah, because my tribe used to fight your tribe, and they killed my great grandparents or something, and I don't like you, kind of deal. Well, you're mixing. It'd be like mixing different religions together or different countries and throw them in a pot and mixing them up. They're going to fight amongst themselves, saying, "Hey, I want to do things this way. This is my culture." And I think the reason that the Indians have so much, I want to say, animosity against the other Indians is because they have a lot of culture. All Indians, I do believe, can you back me up on this, seem to have or want to retain their history and culture. Is that not true?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
and
I
for
think.
example, I was at a large gathering at Middle Tennessee University, MTSU in Tennessee, and it was a very large powwow. And so they had representative of tribes from all over the place, from the Cherokee to the Kiowa to the the Blackfoot, and so there was a large argument on Friday as to where the entrance to the circle was going to be. And so there was this large contention that it should be in the north. And then, as far as I've always known, the entrance should be in the east. Eastern band religions and so forth, you always enter the great circle from the east. And they were like, no, you enter from the north. These folks were going to, go at it right there.
Yeah.
Now, the compromise was like, well, you folks, that want to come in from the north, enter from the north. It's such an easy solution. And you folks that want to come in from the east, come in from the east. But the way they were looking at it was so spiritual in that, yeah, but our religion says only from the north or only from the east. And so for the eastern folks, if you entered from the north, that was sacrilege. So they were both creating sacrilege to the circle. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
See
I
that?
understand, but I don't. And how, can you not both sanctify the circle coming in from the north and you guys from the east and shared in the culture? Well, it took them 3.5, 4 hours. Some of them were going to pull out. I mean, they were going to go home, and they pulled it together, and
Yeah.
it was a good powwow. But they were having at it, buddy.
Huh. Yeah. Well, like I said, it's it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but the one thing that throwing them tribes together was that now they had a common enemy.
Yeah.
So in a way, it threw them together, but in a way, it brought them together because now they were spread out all over the place, and now they're all in Oklahoma pretty much, well, a lot of them, and so now they can talk amongst themselves and go, them dirty white people, Uncle Sam, we hate him,
Yeah.
big white brother, in Washington, phooey on him. So, it and the Indians themselves could pass along. You know what they did to us down at Green Pass last year. They ambushed us and killed all our women and children. And then the other guys, they were like, yeah, we were up at Buffalo Pass, and they did the same thing to us. There's only 12 of us left. So they got to share stories versus hearing it, on the grapevine, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it brought them together, which created issues, but it brought them together so they could fight that. And they're still fighting the government. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree on that. Like I said, it's that's one thing that they do. They are very into that. Okay, so back to um, anyway. So as he went along, he was a secretary. He was appointed by the Secretary of War to settle the Sioux relocation, and then finally he was appointed an agent for the Ponca by President Hayes. He spent his life walking between the worlds, the tribe, the military, the political, and was respected by all. So now we're going to go to Colorado. And Albert Boone became known as one of the earliest pioneers of Colorado, establishing trade routes, settlements, and acting as a guide and negotiator during the region's explosive expansion. I can't talk tonight. Anyway, he lived a long time, and he died July 14th, 1844 in Denver, Colorado. Along the way, Boone met with a lot of different tribes. He had relations with the Cheyenne, and these were horse-mounted plains warriors known for strong warrior societies, spiritually and strategically diplomatic, and Boone negotiated major treaties with them. He also dealt with the Arapaho, close allies of the Cheyenne. They were skilled buffalo hunters, known for their peace-first diplomacy, but fierce resistance after betrayed. Also, the Kiowa, nomadic, formidable plains riders and buffalo hunters. Boone served as an agent during the years of intense conflict. The Comanche. Ooh, we know these guys. They're rough and tough. Known as the Lords of the Plains, unmatched horsemen and tacticians. Danger and diplomacy both ran high here. Remember, we talked about the Comanche, and they were the greatest horsemen of the plains. We also have the Plains Apache, or the Kiowa Apache, a small but influential group of allied with the Kiowa, respected for scouting and tactical knowledge. And the Ponca, which we haven't talked about them here before. They were agricultural, tribal nation of the northern plains. Boone helped manage federal relations and land issues. And of course, the Sioux, powerful tribal confederation. Remember, there was the Lakota, Nakota, and the Dakota. And Boone helped negotiate land cessions involving the Black Hills region, which we know that exploded badly. Oh, yeah. Thanks to Custer. In 1806, he was born in Kentucky. By the 1820s, he became a trader with Osage, a frontier interpreter. By the 1860s, this is a big gap, so he kind of was a trader for quite a long time. By the 1860s, he was getting older, and he settled down and became a negotiator for the Cheyenne and Arapaho. And then 1861, I suppose he might have been fighting for the Confederates. Who knows? Because apparently he was removed by Lincoln. Again, in 1868, forgiven and reappointed by Grant, agent for the Kiowa, Comanche, and the Cheyenne. And in the 1870s, he worked with the Sioux land placement. And in the the late 1870s, the agent for Ponca and under President Hayes. And in 1884, he dies in Denver. So that's kind of his timeline. But 1884, man, good long time. So we got, well, what, is there any stories about this guy? Because, apparently, he must have been known for something. Let's see.
Especially, look how many presidents he knew.
Yes.
I mean, Lincoln didn't like him. Then he was reappointed, and then, and then Grant reappointed him. And so he must have been good at something for the presidents to know who he was. Back in those days, you might hear, well, Paul Bunyan. Well, he had a blue cow. Okay. But, who is this guy? He's a grandson of Daniel. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
So what? Well, so Daniel didn't give him his notoriety, because by the time his notoriety was famous, Daniel was long gone. So, whatever fame he had, he made it on his own. So that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And that's right, because he was living in Daniel Boone's legacy, and I'm sure that everybody that met him had to go, oh yeah, there's, what can you tell me about Daniel Boone? Wouldn't that be terrible?
Well, I would expect that by the time he got too old, that they wouldn't meet him with, oh, you're Daniel's grandson. They would meet him with, hi, Mr. Boone, blah, blah, blah. Are you related to Daniel in any way? That would kind of come in later on. So his notoriety would be after the fact, if you know what I mean. Yes. So he was out there making his own,
Yes. Oh yeah. I'm sure he did. But I do believe he was probably, like you said, oh man, you're the grandson of Daniel Boone. What was he like?
Yeah. I'm sure that happened,
Oh yeah. But I know. I mean, if I had met him, I probably would have asked the same thing. I would have skipped right over his life and what he did, and I'd probably say, "You knew Daniel Boone? What can you tell me about him? What was he like?" That's the first question I'd probably ask him.
Yeah, I'd probably say, hey, can I buy you a beer? Let's go. Can we have a chat?
Yeah. I probably wouldn't sit down and say, man, I want to hear about your exciting life. Because you're the son of Daniel Boone. You must have had a good, exciting life too.
And what did you do together? What did he teach you,
Yeah, exactly. So here's one of those stories. So we're going to find out a little bit about an adventure story that Albert Boone had in the winter on the Cimarron. Okay. In the winter of 1859, came down to the Cimarron country like a hammer of ice. Snow stacked against the cottonwoods.
Where is Cimarron now, so folks and me will know where it is?
I think this is out in Colorado.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where it is. Didn't you ever watch Cimarron Strip? It was the old Western.
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's one. I watched a bunch of them, but that was not one.
Oh, okay. Well, it was one of them, but anyway. And the snow stacked up against the cottonwoods, and the wind cut like a blade, and the plains went silent, in the kind of silence that only comes when nature is thinking hard about who deserves to live. Albert Boone rode into the cold with 2 wagons, four hired hands, and a pack of trade goods bound for Fort Wise. Most men avoided traveling the late season, but not Albert Boone. He wasn't built to hide from weather or men. The Kiowa had been restless. The Comanche even more so. Rumors said that a band had taken a raid along the Santa Fe Trail. Boone, who knew he'd had to cross the same stretch, and he knew trouble would find him long before he found shelter. Then it started to snow. By mid-afternoon, the trail was half buried. The wagon wheels creaked and the horses snorted clouds into the frozen air. Boone told his men, "Stay close, boys. Snow quiets everything, even danger." That's when he saw them. Movement on the ridge. Dark shapes shifting through the blowing snow. Comanche? About 20 riders. Not charging, not hiding, just watching. His men looked to him, fear in their eyes, and Boone didn't blink. He stepped off the wagon, raised his hand, and shouted into their direction, using the Comanche trade tongue. Remember, he was a trader. "We seek no fight. We travel with respect." The riders didn't answer. They just shadowed the wagons mile after mile, like wolves waiting for weakness. Night was falling when the Comanche finally moved. They rode down from the ridge, quiet as falling snow, forming a half moon around the camp. Torches flickered in the wind, and their painted faces appeared and vanished through the shadows. One of Boone's men whispered, "We're done. They're going to take us." Boone didn't even flinch. "Not if we stand like men who mean it." He walked forward alone, coat flapping in the wind, breath steaming until he stood 5 feet from the leader. The Comanche chief, Shawai, narrowed his eyes. Boone had met him once before at Bent's Fort. A careful man, a proud man, a dangerous man if crossed. They stared at each other down, the kind of stare that decides wars. Boone was first to speak. "Your people know my family," he said calmly. "You know Daniel Boone? I'm his blood." Again, there he goes, using his grandfather as leverage. Tashawi nodded slowly, then pointed to the wagons and growled, "White men kill buffalo, left meat to rot, took hides and left bones." Boone answered without fear, "That is not my way. I trade honest. I show respect." Tashawi stared long and hard, then reached to his robe and pulled out a lone arrow, black shaft, eagle feather fletched. He drove it into the snow between them. Then he stepped back. To the Comanche warrior, the arrow meant judgment suspended, a chance at peace. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Boone knelt in the snow and pulled a trade knife from his belt and planted it beside the arrow. The two symbols, side by side, war or peace, balanced on a blade of cold air. The wind howled through the trees, and Tashawi spoke. "You will pass under our eyes. No man will touch your wagons." Boone nodded once, and the winter pack was struck. For the next 2 days, the Comanche rode with them, not as enemies, not quite as friends, but as watchers, ensuring Boone kept his word and stayed the honest trader he claimed to be. When Boone's wagons reached the fort, wise, Tashawi lifted his chin and said only, "You carry your grandfather's courage." Boone bowed his head and answered, "And I hope to carry his honor." The Comanche wheeled their horses and disappeared into the blowing snow, leaving Boone and his men alive, because fearlessness, respect, and truth had spoken louder than gunpowder. Well, so these were the things that, Boone did. He wasn't shaken under the pressure. He could have been killed. He respected the tribes, and, he knew that fluent frontier discord or discussion, if you want to call it, that, how do you introduce yourself to a native tribe? And what do you do when they throw down the arrow? If you look at it and you went, "Hey, that's a cool arrow, dude," you probably would have got killed. Right?
Yeah, but Also, as I was listening, um, Daniel had this, and I'm sure because of the way Albert, worked, that he had a confidence. There was
Yeah.
an air about him that he was sitting up on the wagon, and he was like, "No, man, that is not my way." And the Indian could tell that he was telling the truth because there was just a way, that they acted, his
Yeah.
demeanor. And so by his demeanor and his words, it's like, you honor your grandfather, and he's like, I hope I keep it up. But but it was, showing the others. And so by their demeanor and how they acted, just how they sat on a horse, that they later on, there were wimpy people out there riding them wagons, and an Indian had come up and they'd about pooping their pants, and here was Albert, like, hi, how you doing? Oh, I know your grandfather. Oh yeah, okay. So common ground, but I believe that a lot of times some of those guys that were famous trappers, they got along with the natives because the natives saw them as honest men.
Yep.
And it's like, well, you might know he's that guy's honest. He tells the truth. He doesn't cheat us. He's an honest man. And so I think sometimes you could just, I mean, you can tell when somebody's trying to sell you a bad car, that car salesman thing. And the Indians knew when they were being jousted most of the time.
That's for sure. Um, so anyway, I found some little good tidbits of stuff, and I thought this is kind of we were talking um, pelts and stuff. I think last week, and it was talking about the rendezvous. And it says here, so much money. A good trapper would come back to a rendezvous with 300 or 400 pelts, and a very good and very lucky one might double this figure, as Jedediah Smith did in his big year of 1825. He brought in 668 pelts. After a mountain man unloaded his furs at the beginning of the rendezvous, he might have between $1,000 and $2,000 in his pocket at the time, when a skilled worker such as a carpenter or mason could hope to earn little more than $1.50 a day. Wow. And you could do this every year. Think of that. $1.50 a day. You earn like, $50 a month maybe.
Yep.
And then times 12, yeah, you're talking like $600, isn't it? Yeah, $600. And then and this guy went out, did the hardships. No wonder why they were risking their necks for stuff. I mean, go out there getting the pelts, risking getting shot and killed by Indians, or frozen to death, or losing limbs. And I mean, this was like a gold mine. It'd be like getting hired for, here, I'm going to give you $20 an hour or something, to
A
sit
good
around.
return on their investment.
Well, exactly. It goes on here. Of course, the money did not stay in his pocket long. Of course, there's always a way to get the money out of this guy once he's got it. It lasted, in fact, it seldom lasted through the month of the rendezvous. The business structure of the rendezvous are all guaranteed that the men who supplied the trappers would grow rich, while the trappers themselves remained poor. Doesn't that sound familiar? You
Yeah.
go to work, you get all this stuff, and remember, this is kind of why it's important, because what was Albert Boone? He was a trader. He was he merchant kind of guy. He was trading and talking, and Yeah, he wasn't out there trapping and doing all that hard labor work. He figured it out right away. Anyway, um, the business structure of the rendezvous all guaranteed the men who supplied trappers would grow rich while the trappers themselves remained poor. The trapper had no choice but to offer his pelts to Ashley, Bill Sublet, or whoever else came to monopolize the rendezvous. Throughout the boom days of the Rocky Mountain Fur Company, trappers sold beaver pelts at rendezvous for $2 to $4 a pound. That would later be resold in St. Louis for $6 to $8. Wow. The trapper could do nothing to raise the price because the rendezvous was the only market. Furthermore, he had to buy all his goods for the next season from the agents of St. Louis suppliers who operated a floating version of the company store, complete with sky-high prices. Whiskey, an essential commodity at the rendezvous, was bought in St. Louis for 30 cents a gallon and cut with water and sold to the mountain men, frequently in short measure, at $3 a pint. Woo! You're making a fortune. Just take a few gallons of whiskey, water it down, double your money, or quadruple your money. The average in St. Louis price for tobacco, coffee, or sugar was 10 cents a pound, lead 6 cents, and gunpowder 7 cents. In the mountains, each of these items cost $2. Wow, what a markup. And for trade goods to mollify the Indians, like calico, beads, and other things, mirrors probably, cloth, whatever, the markup was usually 2,000% or more. If a trapper had anything left after buying his supplies, he usually blew it on the local Indian girls. Yeah. They worked 11 months for the sake of going to the rendezvous. They found what they had yearned for all year: company, conversation, and new clothes, dry shoes, and a variety of women, tobacco, and booze. So for a glorious month, they partied it up, blew their wad, and had to go back to work. What a way to go. I just thought that was so flippin' interesting because I'm thinking, these guys worked so hard for their money, but then, somebody's always there to screw them out of it. Doesn't that think like all of us? That was like, no matter where you go or what you do, you work really hard, and then, well, we raise the price. Oh, you make a lot of money, your rent's going to go up. Since you're earning more money nowadays, car prices have to go through the roof. Oh, you want to eat? Well, we'll raise all those prices up too. Well, you decided not to. Geez, Scotty says, women, tobacco, booze. Is there anything more? No. Scotty, would you like anything more than women, tobacco, and booze if you were a mountain man? Go ahead. Oh, you wouldn't need pants, so there you go. Those days are washed. She said, work to labor. Back in those days. Because that's the thing. You work, and then it's like what was it? Wasn't it the coal mines or something where they had like a company store, and you worked for the company, and then they gave you money, but it wasn't really money. It was only money you could buy stuff at the company store. They gave you a house to live, but then you had to pay rent from the money that you got from the company, and then the people got really, really poor, but they had to keep working until they literally died. Literally, you created a slave class. And that's what the
Appalachian coal miner. And of course, now they did the same thing to the Chinese in California and Washington and Oregon and over there for when they started working in the mines. And the Chinese, I'm trying to think what the coolies, they worked the railroads, and And so they could, they could buy a bunch of Chinese workers from somebody like slave trade, and say, well, you can buy these 20 workers, for $200, and we'll guarantee that they stay on the job for 2 years, you know. And
Yeah,
so the guy says, wow, $200, that's pretty cheap. So he pays the middleman, the coyote, $200, and he keeps everybody in line for 2 years, you know. So,
yeah,
but yeah, there was absolutely, we don't hear about the Chinese slave labor. We don't.
no,
There's so much that happened on the Pacific coast. We hear about all the stuff, where pooey, white men moved west, but we don't ever hear of the stories of about, how many of the Chinese were brought over on the boats, and, of how they, Koreans. I mean, it wasn't just the Chinese, but there were Taiwanese and folks from all over the place, and they were
yeah,
brought over here under the conditions of, what is it called? Um, um, you'll work for me for 10 years. What is that called?
indentured
Indentured
servant.
servitude.
Yeah, yeah,
So
indentured servant.
a lot, oh, but that wasn't slavery. Oh, yeah, it was.
Just
And
a,
it's still alive today. Actually, the Chinese still do it. So, but anyway.
well, but that's again. I mean, it's never went away. I mean, even people
Nope.
like you and me are in slavery and servitude and all of that, indenturing servant. If you buy a house and you have a mortgage, uh, you've assigned yourself over to go to work and then pay somebody for a place to live. And yeah, and then you pay them interest and all of that stuff, but you're signing papers. Remember, that's why they want all that information about you, everything from when you were born to how sickly you are, everything, who's your second cousin's uncle, and so they, to make it legal, they've changed it around a lot. And now we do it to ourselves. Ooh, I want that new car. Well, you're going to be an indentured servant. We don't care who you're a slave to, just that you are one. And then when they pay you with this in-store credit, then you go to work and you pay us, and then you can have that shiny new car. And you go, right, ooh boy, I want that. There's Max Vision. Haven't seen you, Max, for a while. Good to see you there. Good to see you. Um, in Chinese gangs, yeah, 35,000 Chinese gangs, yeah, okay. Well, but anyway, that's kind of how it goes. But anyway, now for our spiel as we switch over to the story time. Remember, everybody, pick your cards as they're going to be coming out pretty soon. But in the meantime, go over to Nina's channel right over there and get yourself one of these Robert and David Native American Myths and Legends shirts, only here on the Milky Way Soul Tribe. The link is in the description below over on Nina's Streamlabs, where you can get yourself one of these nice, cool mugs like this. Support our show. That's right. Get this mug, get the shirt. There's t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, the whole 9 yards over there. Milky Way Soul Tribe shirts, Anakarana shirts, our Wayne Steiger shirts. The whole bunch is over there. Must be on the other link. Yeah, there's a link in there. Streamlabs. If you can't find it, go over to Nina's channel. She promotes it quite a bit. Usually she puts a link in the pinned comment or something on the show here. I don't know. Maybe she forgot this time. Nope, she didn't put the pinned comment. Somebody's got to have it. I know it. I know it's here in the description below. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, does 9 have code? Does 9? I don't have COD. I don't know. Nina. Nina will answer that question. I'm sure she'll be here soon. But anyway, go get your shirts. She got Christmas is coming. She's got the holiday shirt up. I haven't bought a holiday shirt either yet. But anyway, all that good stuff going. We got a story for you tonight too. I am all tongue-tied tonight. I keep just having a heck of a time with talking tonight, don't I? Maybe it's because I got a toothache. And it's really getting to me. Oh, there it is. The Indian.
Clove.
Okay. What?
Clove.
What? Clove.
The herb clove.
Yeah.
A whole. I've had. Well, I don't have any teeth now, but with all the years of pain that I've had, I'd stick a whole clove of a whole clove of clove in my tooth. And if I didn't have a clove, I would take the dried and wet my tongue and get some on it and then roll it on my gum. But oil of clove is still very efficient for, sore gums, sore teeth, children who are teething. But yeah, clove is the deal. Now I want to, if y'all better pick out your cards because I done picked them.
Oh.
And so
you're ahead of us tonight.
I'm going to tell you what the cards are, but then we're going to read the story, and then we'll go into the cards. Okay.
Yeah. Well. Oh, I know what Scotty Boost. Who remembers COD? Collect on delivery. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, he says I ate raw garlic. Yeah, I know. I got a wisdom tooth. I get my wisdom tooth is going bad. Yeah.
Clove. Clove.
Clove. Okay.
I'm telling you, clove. And somebody will say, well, yeah, okay, clove, that's a good idea. But then they'll go to bed with a sore, with their mouth. I'm like, you got clove in the kitchen? Yeah. Go get some. Well, I'll do it later. Is your mouth hurt? Yeah. Go get the clove. Well, it'll be all right. I'll get it before I go. Go get the clove. So I'm telling you, if your mouth hurts, go get the clove. Now, here are the cards for tonight, y'all, and you can be thinking about it. All right. The first card up tonight, golly, you can't make this up, is turkey.
No way.
Honest to God, it's upside down, but it's turkey. So, which turkey is sort of a giveaway. I won't go into the meaning and everything now, but turkey was first up, and then raven, heads up.
Oh, we had raven last week.
And then the third card is deer, upside down. Butterfly is the fourth card, and it's right side up. And then the fifth card is turtle, upside down. And then, let's see. Yeah. And then buffalo upside down. Frog upside down. And then swan upside down. So those are our cards for tonight, and we will get to them in a few minutes. Our story for tonight is called
Turtle, buffalo, and what? Swan? I think it's swan.
Raven, deer,
yeah,
butterfly, turtle, buffalo, frog, and swan. Frog's about cleansing, and swan is about being gentle. Swan is about grace. So if it's upside down, probably means we need to find a good lily pad to cleanse ourselves, and probably to cleanse ourselves to accept what swan has, which is grace. So, but that's just a little preview of what the cards can mean. But anyway, so yeah, let me get to the plume. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I got the Indian plume.
Yeah. All right. I got mine up too, and I got it to where I can read it better. Okay. So let me get a swaller. And I'm we finished that other book, if you all, recall, which had at least 50 stories in it. And so we're now reading from a book called Fanciful Tales from Legends of the Adirondack Indians by Kate Brewer, 1905. So I find two things interesting. They're both, the last one was in the early 1900s, and it was also written by a woman. So I just find that interesting, that women authors back in the day were somehow more popular than men. All right, y'all hold your mouth still. I got to go let Duggar in, or he's going to be bothering and making a noise. So hang on.
Oh, don't worry. I'll hold down the fort. I know how that goes. My dog just decided to go out, but they'll be coming back in any second. It's cold outside. We had snow last night, and it snowed most. Yeah, we got about 3 inches, 4 inches of snow, and it's cold out. Winds are blowing, snow's a drifting. I think I might have to get the tractor out and actually plow this year. I knew it. Anyway, thank you all. I hope you got all your stuff. Scotty says, what the F is going on? Well, Hawkeye got a little excited about picking cards a little earlier, and now we're going to read a story. So as soon as he lets Duggar in, story time is here. The Crow is here. Thank you for coming. I've been in class. Well, it's been, oh, there we go. Anyway, story coming right up, right?
And Crow is our second card for tonight also. So
there you go. Good deal.
Go. All right, so I'm cleaning my glasses. I got a little ahead with the cards because the spirit was just like, here, pick cards. Now, grab them.
I know.
So yeah. I try not to argue with the spirits. It'll get you in trouble every time. So, but anyway, let me start over with this. So we finished up that other book, and this particular one is called Fanciful Tales from Legends of the Adirondack Indians by Kate Brewer, 1905. And this is the second story in this book, and it's called The Indian Plume. Severe had been the winter for the tribe on the shores of the Lake of the Clustered Stars. Long had the snow lain on the ground, and constantly had the cold wind blown. It had not been a good season for hunting either, and long trips had to be taken on snowshoes in order to shoot the fleet-footed deer. Even now, though the late April sun was shining, there was ice floating in the lake, and patches of snow gleamed white in the forest. New life was just beginning to show itself in the hearts of the Indian people, and there was stir and movement in the village. Thank offerings were made to the Great Spirit that the winter was over, and many were the rejoicings at the greening of the grass and the swelling of the buds on the trees. Very happy indeed was the tribe until suddenly a strange sickness appeared among them. Young and old alike, it attacked, tortured them a few hours, and left them cold and dead. Panic spread through the village, and a despair, which even the cold of winter had not produced, settled down. Such was the state of affairs in the tribe of the Saranaks as the beautiful spring came on. when the wild creatures ran merrily about the forest, and the fish again sported in the sparkling water. It is a punishment sent by the Great Spirit, Siwani, and the chief is to smoke the calumet pipe tonight when the moon rises. Surely, Flying Arrow, the Great Spirit will hear our prayers and our lamentations when the smoke of the sweet calumet ascends to him. The speaker was a girl of the tribe, perhaps in her 17th year. Tall she was and very beautiful as she stood in the afternoon sunlight by the side of the straight-limbed brave, her promised husband. I cannot tell. It may be that there will have to be sacrifice ere the Great Spirit removes his displeasure from us. Think you the chief will offer the white dog to appease the Great Spirit's wrath? I know not. It may be that even the blood of one of the tribe will be needed before this dreadful quick death will go from our midst. That would be horrible indeed, replied the girl with a shudder, as she pressed closer to the arrow's side and clasped her hands about his arm. Do not be afraid, my Siwani. When this plague has left the village, then the chief will bless us, and I will take thee to the wigwam I have but now finished. Come, let us go down to the lake. The canoe is waiting, and it grows late. With these words, the two passed from sight among the trees, following the trail to the little beach where the slender birch bark craft was pulled up out of the water. One by one, the furtive wild creatures, finding themselves in position of the silent knoll, scampered from their hiding places and ran to and fro, busy, most of them, looking for their spring quarters or on the search for food. Quick Death ever stalks among the creatures of fur and feather, but beyond being ever alert for the sound or smell of enemies, little they trouble themselves. As the shadows lengthened and finally disappeared in the enveloping twilight, the sounds gradually ceased and the little knoll sank into the darkness of the growing night, till the light of the rising moon reached it through the stems of the sharply pointed balsams which surround it. In the Indian village, a great stillness reigned, not the stillness of the balsam grove, but the stillness which is sometimes noticed when numbers of people are gathered together waiting tensely. Slowly the smoke ascended as the chief puffed at the long-stemmed sacred pipe. The fire sank to a bed of glowing coals, and the moon rose ever higher and higher. Still, in silence, the chief smoked on, till at last the pipe was burnt out, when he rose and without a word disappeared within the doorway of his wigwam. Slowly the people scattered, exchanging now and then a word, but for the most part silent. Night settled down, but there was not rest for the Indians. The dreaded Quick Death still strode among them, striking down one after the other. Cries and groans filled the night. The Great Spirit had not heard their prayers, while the smoke of the calumet ascended to him. Morning dawned on a now thoroughly grief-stricken people. In vain the chief spoke to them words of encouragement. In vain he bade them assemble for the sacrifice of the sacred white dog. No hope showed itself on the countenance of the now sadly diminished tribe. Silently they looked on while the chief killed and burned the spotless animal. In the meantime, Sewanee, in passing the new wigwam of Flying Arrow, heard her name called out in agony. Hesitating but one moment, she entered the low doorway, and her eyes becoming accustomed to the darkness, she described Flying Arrow lying on his mat, tossing in agony. One glance told her he was the victim of the terrible plague. With one low cry, she fell on her face beside him. Then, lifting his head on her lap, she laid her cool hand on his hot brow and strove to quiet him. Useless her caressing touch. His tossing and raving continued. Frequently among his mutterings, she heard the words, Sewanee, Great Spirit, and blood sacrifice. Finally, the long limbs straightened themselves. The fire died out of his eyes, and looking up into her sorrowing face, he breathed rather than spoke the words. Happy hunting grounds, Sewanee, come. She sat quietly, holding his head pressed to her for some moments, the tears slowly dropping from her eyes. Then, quickly but gently, she closed the eyes, laid the head again on the mat, and hurried to where the tribe was gathered. As she walked rapidly along, the meaning of the arrow's last words came to her, and her resolve shaped itself, reaching the assembled tribe. Now just dispersing, she dropped on her knees before the chief and told him of what had taken place, how Flying Arrow, with his last breath, had bid her to come to the Great Spirit. And then, standing upright with outstretched arms, she said, O my people, to rid us of this plague which has come among us, it is needed that one must die willingly. The Great Spirit has not taken it from us, though the calumet has been smoked and the white dog slain. Who should better die than I? All desire for life has gone from me with the passing of the breath of Flying Arrow. With these words, she commenced a slow, swaying motion, at the same time singing her death chant. Gradually, the motions quickened as the chant increased in volume till it was almost a song of triumph. At a moment when the song was almost glorious, she raised her right hand and plunged a dagger in her heart. Tenderly, the Indians lifted her from the ground, stained red with blood, and bore her away for burial beside her grave. That day, there were no more victims to the quick death. And then morning dawned, serene and beautiful. They found raising its head to the sunlight on the spot where Siwanee's blood had stained the ground, the glorious blossoms now called Indian plume. The quick death never appeared among the Saranaks, and they always remembered Siwanee and her sacrifice. For wherever the Saranaks wandered, the Indian plume sprang up and still grows. The Indian. The end. Now, there is a type of plant which is almost like a fungi. It's almost like a mushroom, and it's called Indian pipes. And I think there is a similar story. And I'm curious, the Indian plumes, it could be that those are the same thing as Indian pipes, just in a different region. So, but anyway, so there's the story, the Indian plumes.
I think I heard a similar story one time we did where there was some kind of death going around the village, and the girl went to the top of the mountain and she jumped off or something like that. But to cure the village or whatever, but her boyfriend or husband or whatever he was, he didn't die, but she didn't want him to die, so she decided to jump off the cliff and be the sacrifice so that he could live. Anyway, yeah, no head chopping, but still somebody got killed. Somebody always gets killed off. Anyway, to put it simply, these I wonder, I mean, we're reading this as a story, but I wonder how many times this actually happened when the plague come through and they didn't know what was causing it.
More times than not.
Yeah.
Because they always threw the virgin into the boiling hot water or the volcano.
It's true. Crow says, "Hey, nice T-shirt, Robert." Yes, and you can get yours too. And Native American Myths and Legends with Robert and David, the best storyteller on YouTube. Or get a coffee mug. What the heck? Right. Anyway. Apparently you don't got yours on, he says. You got yours on today? No.
Nope, I just got a T-shirt on. It got hot.
Oh, I wish it was hot here, man. It's freezing cold. It's like 20 degrees. Oh, yeah. So anyway, what is it out? Yeah, it's 20 degrees out for the next 2 days. That's what it's going to be.
Well, you live up there near the Canadians.
That's right. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, you're right. It probably happened a lot. That's why a lot of these stories happen. I mean, think of it. Sickness comes into the village. The medicine man can't cure it. People are dying like flies. And what do you do? What do you do? You're thinking, oh my gosh, everybody's dying. One day somebody comes in, oh, I'm dying, and then they don't know how to cure it. They don't know why they're getting it. They can't see it, but everybody's getting it. And then who are you going to blame? The Great Spirit. The Great Spirit's doing it to us because we didn't. What's the greatest gift you can give the Great Spirit? Blood. It's always blood, isn't it? Life, yes, life. Blood is life. That is true. So, oh. Let's see. We got a good story next week. This book has got a lot of Tribe Divided. Ooh, that's going to be a good one. Okay. Let's see. So, off to the cards, or
Yep, off to the
Yeah.
card. So our first card tonight was turkey. And turkey is called the giveaway.
Oh, the
And
giveaway.
yep. So turkey is actually thought to be the giveaway eagle or the southern eagle. The philosophy of giveaway was practiced and still is practiced by many tribes. Simply stated, it is the deep and abiding recognition of the sacrifices of both self and others. They would have a giveaway where someone would just give away something, but then they'd lay a blanket out, and other people would come around and put things that they would give away also onto the blanket. And then the blanket in the giveaway would be auctioned off, and the money would be given to someone who needed it most within the tribe. So, it was like, so if somebody needed gas to get home, they would just ask for a giveaway rather than to beg for money. So that, they'd lay a blanket out and put something on the blanket. And it might be a feather, it might be a bracelet, it might be some beads, and say, I'll trade you this for whatever you can give me. And so the giveaway. So, but since you were giving away this offering and it was the only thing you had, but then other people would come along and give to that, you see. And so it's better than begging for money or whatever. And so, but, so the giveaway, so the turkey is nature, giveaway, but upside down. There were several aspects to pulling the gobbler card in the reverse position. Are you gobbling up anything and everything out of fear from the fact that you might feel that you lack something, or that you're not going to get enough, or that turkey ain't going to come this year, or are you holding it too tight and letting go of a dime for charity? Another aspect of contrary gobbling is the idea that the world owes you something and you do not need to recycle the energy. Remember, never give to receive. That is manipulation. Giving is without regret and with a joyful heart, or the giveaway has lost its true meaning. So if the card's upside down with this, so if you're looking to be a giveaway for this Thanksgiving, remember, never give to receive. So there's that. Now, number 16 is Raven, and it's right side up. Raven is the magic. Raven has carried the medicine of magic. It's a powerful medicine that can give you the courage to enter the darkness of the void. The void is called the Great Mystery. Great Mystery existed before all other things came into being. It's where all things have been brought from, is from the Great Mystery. Great Spirit lives inside the void and emerged from the Great Mystery. Raven is the messenger of the void. Okay. So Turkey was like, don't be given to receive something. And here's Raven saying it's the messenger of the void. If Raven appears in your spread, you are about to experience a change of consciousness. Ooh. So here's Raven bringing in something, a change of consciousness. The third card in is Deer, upside down. And Deer is about gentleness. It is, it is, it is. And the story is that through gentleness, deer was able to melt the heart of the demon who was keeping folks from being able to go up the road to Sacred Mountain. And deer teaches us to use the power of gentleness to touch the hearts and minds of wounded beings who are trying to keep us from the Sacred Mountain. Deer in the contrary position indicates that you are courting your fear by fighting the internal demons of negative ideas. This is a clue to you that force is not always the best method. You can't force the issues on anything like that. Even in nailing a nail in, if you try to force it, you have to just nail it without forcing it. So there's the giveaway. You don't want to give to receive. Raven is the magic of it. Gentle deer is the deer into it. And the next card in is butterfly, which is all about the changes, right? From the chrysalis to the, transformation. So to use butterfly medicine, you must absolutely observe your position and the shape of self-transformation. So Raven is saying, there's going to be a change in consciousness, and deer is saying you can't force it. And here's butterfly saying, like butterfly are always at a certain stage in life. So you need to determine what that is. Well, you need to find out what it is first as to, where you figure out the stage is. But what we can understand is that through consciousness, they're, aligning with the new consciousness. It is a transformation. Okay. So don't have to put too much into that. It is a transformation. And the next card up, which is also the next page in the book, is turtle upside down, meaning Mother Earth. So turtle is the oldest symbol for the planet Earth. It is the personification of the goddess energy and the eternal mother from which our lives evolve. So, but contrary turtle in the reverse means that Mother Earth is calling you to reconnect in some way. So Raven, remember, changing consciousness. Deer's there to say, don't force it. Butterfly saying, it is transformational. Don't know what stage yet, but it is transformational. And here's a turtle saying, you've lost your grounding. So you need to be grounded again before you lose it, right? So, that's always a good sign a good sign in that there are warnings like, don't lose your ground. So the next one up, oh, that's a 19, not a 16. Is buffalo upside down. And buffalo is about prayer and abundance. That's a good sign, except it's upside down. And so we were reading the story tonight about the chief who smoked a pipe, right? Well, prayer and abundance comes with, they with buffalo they brought the tradition of the sacred pipe, and so it's the sacred pipe which is, when smoked correctly, will bring about, sacred cleansing. All animals are sacred, but in many traditions, the buffalo is the most sacred. So because of its desire to give the gifts that its body provided, and because of its willingness to be used on earth for the highest good, before entering the hunting grounds of spirit. Buffalo, offered itself mostly to the hunters without stampeding much. To use buffalo medicine is to smoke the pipe in a sacred manner. And so our story tonight just so happened that the chief was smoking the sacred pipe. So upside down, buffalo is a signal that you have forgotten to seek help when it's needed. So Mother Earth, there's turtle upside down signaling Mother Earth, and that you need to be grounded, that maybe you have forgotten. So here's buffalo that's saying, have I forgotten my eternal partner, the Great Spirit? Have I forgotten to honor the ways of others? Am I feeling like my life is being used for the highest good? So become buffalo, feel the smoke of prayer and praise change. So Raven warned us, change in consciousness. Now, number 38 is frog, and frog is about cleansing. And there's frog in the background back there. Let's see, 38. We got to go back a little further here. Yep, it is about cleansing. Water prepares and cleanses the body for sacred ceremony. So, changing consciousness, gentleness as we go into it, ground with Mother Earth, a buffalo, buffalo, butterflies in there, there's going to be a transformation. So be aware. And buffalo is saying, bring prayer and abundance in with it. And again, reminding us, have we forgotten our sacred ways? And here's frog upside down. And the contrary position of frogs can denote an unwillingness on your part to wipe the mire out of your life. So here it is coming up to these cards is like, okay, everything's groovy, keep grounded, stay in faith with the buffalo. And maybe, just maybe, you got mud in your eye and you're the reason why something ain't going to go. You got these other things lining up, and then there's frog upside down. Is someone draining your energy, or maybe you're doing it? Maybe you got mud in your eye and you can't see um, to the next thing in the butterfly's life. You got the different stages. So maybe frog's got mud in his eye and can't see what the next stage of the butterfly is. So that means we can't accept the unconscious changes that are happening because we're unconscious to them. We've got mud in our eyes. We can't see them. Anyway, so the last card in for tonight, and by the way, I don't see this as bad cards, all right? The last card is Swan upside down, and Swan is about grace. And Swan is the story of the ugly duckling. And Swan had a chat with Dragonfly and said, if you go into the great mystery, the biggest thing is that you have to abide by whatever great spirit has in store for you. So Swan said, okay, and entered surrendered to the rhythm of the universe, and came out of the dream time as a swan. So if you pulled the swan in reverse, it is warning you that you must acknowledge what you know. So all these cards up to now are telling us, okay, here's change coming, here's the butterfly, here's the frog, stay grounded, But if so, you are not grounded. Swan's warning again, you're not grounded. Jump in place and hold the top of your head as you do so. This will get you back in touch with the earth and keep you from wandering into a dreamy reality. In any case, Swan Reverse says that you need to pay some attention to your body. It can seem as if you're flying without a pilot's license. So notice your surroundings and touch the earth with your feet. So there's a bunch of grounding in here. So Raven's saying a change in consciousness, be aware. And you're coming along, and Deer's saying don't force it. Butterflies saying, there's going to be, changes and transmutations, and Turtle says stay grounded. And Buffalo says, keep the medicine grounded. Frog says, wipe the mire out of your eyes. And Swan is saying, get grounded, stay grounded for whatever is coming. So you might miss it if you ain't grounded. So a bunch of grounding messages. Y'all walk around in your bare feet. Stay grounded. This Thanksgiving, stay grounded. So, not a bad message, not bad cards. So y'all can rest easy tonight. But seeing the butterfly card mixed in with the raven and the turkey is like, there's a change in consciousness coming. Okay, I can accept that. Don't know where that's going, but I can accept that. And with all that's going on and stuff these days, a lot of changes happening. Stay grounded, my friends. Stay thirsty.
Yeah, there you go. Crow wanted to know if somebody's riding a buffalo, so I had to look up the pictures of the guy riding a buffalo. This is a guy on Buffalo Saddles up for viral video fame on Kanoski's ranch. This is home of a guy on a buffalo. Apparently, people have been riding buffalo for years. So, if you work real hard, you can tame one down and ride a buffalo. Actually, when I was a kid, there was a guy, and he rode the buffalo down the road, and I seen him riding a buffalo, and he rode it through town and everything. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I forget, I stopped and talked to him. I was riding my bicycle, and I was just a young kid, but the guy come riding by. I was amazed. Well, I don't know who the guy was. I do remember him riding the buffalo, though.
Well, during the wagon trains, some of the pioneers would ride some of the oxen.
That's true.
And so I would think that, riding a big old oxen would not be too much different than riding on a great big, bison. So there is that. So the pioneers I could see, they were like, well, we rode our farm animals out here. Why not ride one,
Yeah, well, people in other countries apparently ride their buffalo all over the place.
Yeah.
So, as you can see in these pictures, they're riding buffalo all over. But,
but they don't really have cows. So, but, but buffaloes, yep.
Here's a guy in 1961 riding a buffalo. I guess, you get one, you train it really good, you can ride it. So there you go. I thought that'd be an enjoyable thing to look at. I bet you that buffalo go for days.
You wouldn't even know you was there.
Probably not. Big, strong, do whatever.
But for people, if you've ever been around animals much, there are the people who go by and want to pet one, But then there are people who have buffaloes as farm animals, And so If you've ever, other people's cows and horses and stuff, you look into their eyes and you make a connection with that critter. And, so a buffalo, if you make that connection with that critter, then the buffalo will allow you to ride it.
That's true. Absolutely.
But go
Absolutely.
up to the buffalo and piss it off and be mean and nasty and say, I'm going to ride you, buffalo. That buffalo is going to look at you and go, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, try.
Yeah. Uh, this must be. Oh, this is the one everybody's watching. Anyway, um, it's all good. Let's see. I have fed buffalo for my hand. Well, I used to, yeah. Richie Moon says I fed buffalo for my hand. Visit the buffalo sanctuary here. Yeah, when I worked at the ranch back in the day, I used to feed the buffalo all the time and got to pet them and play with them and stuff. But man, I tell you what, after you get too friendly with some of them, and boy, they want food and you don't have any, you better run for it. And Lucky says, farm raised American buffalo are a totally different animal than a wild American buffalo. Wild buffalo will kill you for fun. Yes, this is true. They are wild. That's wild. You know. So there you go. Just one of those things,
And a headbutt from a buffalo would hurt.
Yes, yes. I mean, the one bull we had at the ranch, we put a round bale out there, and he would go out there and buck it with his head, and he'd pick up that 1,500-pound round bale and throw it around like a basketball. It was crazy. Wish I had pictures of that. But yeah,
Yeah, really.
he was powerful. Oh boy, you don't want to get on his bad side, I tell you. Woo. But yeah, you got to stay away. I had a big feeder, and then I would feed them, and I would stand on the opposite side. It was flat. It was just a big flat table and I put the feed on it, and then I would go there and I could just pet them, and like that big fur on the on top of their head. It's like this thick. It's amazingly thick. And no wonder why they stay warm in the middle of winter. Lots of insulation. Hmm. Anyway, it's all good. Well, how about that? We are cruising through tonight. But Thanksgiving is coming up here in a couple of days, or 2 days. Tomorrow, next day, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. What big plans you got for Thanksgiving? Any good words to the people?
Yeah, don't eat too much. It never goes to eat too much. And and take a bite and save a bite. Take a bite and save a bite. And maybe you pack a turkey sandwich and see somebody on the road and give it to them. But for the first time in I can't remember, I am going to Florida for Thanksgiving.
Well,
My sister is coming up to my friend's house, Brad, who's like a brother. And we're going to celebrate my brother's passing. We never got a chance to really get together and do that. So, but I went in the hospital in September for my birthday. And my friend Brad, he went in the hospital in September and had a severe open heart surgery. And we're both better. And so it might be November, but we both survived another month, actually 2 months now. And so we're going to go fishing on the Swanee River, probably on Friday. We're going to stay out of that Black Friday crowd, but we're going to be fishing on the Swanee River. So, and if nothing else, we're going to be cruising on the Swanee. So I'll be singing way down upon the Swanee River, which that's horrible. Maybe I'll sing something else. But so anyway, my prayers go out to everybody. You know, it'll be the first time in a long time. I mean, it's been like 20 some odd years or something since I've, been to Florida for a holiday, and
Mm-hmm.
our family's getting smaller. Me being the oldest, but my sister and I, this will be the first time we've had Thanksgiving in 20 years. So that'll be special, you
Yeah.
know. My friend Rob and my next door neighbor Ricky, he was here earlier this evening, and we were talking about it, and they were like, Dave, you've always been around on Thanksgiving, and I've been over to Rob's house and have sat around with his children, and back when his grandma was alive, and we all had turkey dinner together, and he's like, well, we're going to miss you this year. You've been visiting with us every year now for a bunch of years. But anyway, um, I'm wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be safe on the road. Pope goes, well, you're gonna be okay. I'm driving my brother's mine Jeep down to Florida, so it travels real well. Duggar's going with me.
Ah,
It'll be his first time to go on a 3 or 4 night overnight. We're going to stay in a tent.
oh,
Um, and it's going to be his first time camping. And so, we hope the weather will hold. So it's all going to be new, being with my sister and all, and Brad and company. So it'll be great. It'll be great. So I'm hoping that y'all, have a special Thanksgiving. You know, I was thinking about it earlier, and it's like, well, what's going to make this a special Thanksgiving? Well, I'm just going to go have lunch and supper with some friends and my sister. So, what's the big deal? Well, it's the fact that we haven't done it in 20
mhm.
years. That
That's
makes
true.
it special. But we should take any meal together, and we do. But it's like, this is one of those times when my sister says, I'm coming up and we're going to have Thanksgiving together. Now you get down here, David. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
But
man.
so anyway, I hope I hope that it ain't going to be anything special other than we're probably going to sit on the floor and watch something on the TV and eat out of plastic dinner plates. But it'll be special in that we're going to share the meal together. So find somebody, even if it's a turkey sandwich, share a meal together with folks. Whether they're your family or not, make them your family. So
That,
that's my 10 cents for Thanksgiving.
that's that's what I'm gonna do. I got something in the crock pot, and I'm taking lunch to work for my route partner and whoever else shows up. So that's what I am doing right now. I'm actually, because I ain't gonna spend Thanksgiving with them, I am gonna bring dinner for them tomorrow. That's my little thing I'm doing. How about that?
So you got to work Thanksgiving,
No, I'm off on Thanksgiving, but since I don't really have a whole lot of people to spend it with, I'm
right?
going to take a dinner to work tomorrow morning. I put it in the
Gotcha.
crock pot and take the crock pot and everything, plug it in, and it'll be a hot meal for these guys, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. So
So,
kudos. Cheers for that.
so that's what I'm doing. Anyway, okay. Well, with that, everybody, let's wrap it up for tonight. I'm glad you joined me for the oh, what's his name? And um, Albert Boone. My
Yeah.
gosh. uh, you know, but this guy was great. He carried on his legacy. He negotiated. He dealt with the government politically. Who knows? If things were different, who knows? He might have been run for president or something. He knew all the big wigs like Kit Carson and Jim Bridger and Jedediah Smith and all of those guys. And he was probably friends with more of them too. He was definitely friends with Kit Carson, and he outlived a lot of them. and into the modern day age. Like we always say, he lived through some of the biggest changes in the world. Uh, Born when the country was, I mean, think of it, 1806. Lewis and Clark had just gotten back from their adventure to the Pacific Ocean.
Yep, their
And
expedition. Yep.
yeah, and the country was new. Nobody knew what was out there past the Mississippi River, and it was just open. It was cool to be alive. And by the time he passed on, the natives were on reservation. The trains were going from coast to coast. He'd lived through the gold rush, telegraph, electric lights were being invented, and maybe even some of the first motors and things like that. I mean, just amazing things.
They went from being the first pioneers to being the first in the industrial age in America.
Yeah.
So like you were saying, with trains and this and that, so they couldn't get across the mountains, when he was first born, but then trains were going across the mountains by the time he died.
Yeah, and that's something. I always wanted to go to the Pacific. When I was born, we didn't even know what was out there. By the time I got old, I just got on a train and went.
Yeah. Paid a few dollars and sat on the train. Yep, absolutely. So, we're sort of going through an age like that now with the computer and AI and all this other kind of stuff. Because, I remember the days of dial-up,
Mm-hmm.
and so we have gone from dial-up, which is like pioneers, in a horse and buggy going over the mountains in the west, to now we got fiber optic cable, and you and I can speak there's a slight lag, but we can speak almost immediately with each other. And so look how far we've come, from horse and buggy in a way to where we are now with, a cell phone that's a computer, So
yeah, the weird part
back in the day.
Oh yeah, but I just think about, by the time I get, in the next 20 years and I get really old, I mean, what changes will it be in the next 20 years? It seems like we're advancing so fast. It's almost scary.
Yeah, but I think we're going to reach a point where there's going to be some really fancy stuff, but the next thing's going to be computers in the head. And I can see it for people who have, lost limbs or whatever, there's a lot of good research in that area, to where that, there's a chip that can read a part of the brain and open and close the fingers, and know which hand it is, So I think that's great. But then there are people who want to be logged in to the internet at all times. They're going to want to wear those glasses, and the glasses aren't going to be fast enough. They're going to want a chip in their brain. Mm-hmm. Well, go ahead, not me. Go ahead, not me. This thing is fast enough. My cell phone's fast enough. I don't need a chip in the brain, unless I've lost my speech or something, but nope, I see no reason for that. But I can see where there are human beings that want that. Yeah, augmentation. Yeah. So yeah. I do not. I've already been augmented. I got a stent in my heart. Yeah. I've had pieces of bone and stuff shoved in my neck for surgeries and stuff. I've been messed with enough.
Yep, that's for sure. All right then. Well, we're going to call it, and about the 2 hours, it's getting close to the 2 hour mark. So with that, everybody go out and do your thing. Have your Thanksgiving your own way. Get to know your neighbor. Do something nice. This is the time of year to share a meal, share your thoughts, most of all, share some friendship. be friendly to others, do the things that you want to have reflected upon yourself. And with that, be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Stay thirsty. Cheers.